I would like to introduce our first speaker, Amy Taylor. Amy, I came to write. I came here to take notes. So, Amy is a business coach. She's very famous in Australasia. She's a coach in one of the leading coaching institutes at Australia and Asia. Amy is a productivity expert. She has her own framework. It is even named, and she's going to be sharing that with us now. I also want us to bear in mind that it's very early in Australia where Amy is coming from, and I'm surprised she's very bright-eyed, you know, because we're all excited to hear from you. So please, Amy, tell us more about yourself, and you have the floor.
Beautiful. I thought I was the second speaker, but I will dive right in. So let me just share my screen and we'll get some slides up. So as Augusta said, I'm in Australia. It's about 3 a.m. here right now. So it is definitely very early. However, it is a time of day that I work really well. So it was a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. So yeah, so I have mentored with one of the largest coaching schools in Australasia, which was an absolute privilege as a coach. And I have been doing productivity and planning in my home-based business for, how was that child, 17 years nearly. And then in my own business for the last 5 years. And my goal is really to redefine productivity by getting rid of to-do lists and the obligation and the pressure and the stress that comes with them, and really finding a better way to take care of today. Just a little bit of me on a personal note. I am the kind of person that dives in quite deep to personal development and to anything that kind of becomes my obsession. So in 2019, in a way of challenging myself, I did a stand-up comedy gig to a paid audience to overcome my limiting belief of thinking that I wasn't funny. Last year in lockdown, I decided I needed a challenge, and so I trained myself using online strategies to solve the Rubik's Cube, and I can now do it fairly consistently. I have done it under 2 minutes. I'm a little bit out of practice. I timed myself the other day, and it's about 2.5 minutes these days. So that's me on a personal level. And then let's jump into the professional pieces. So if you guys have got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box. I'm happy to answer questions as we progress through, and as long as we don't go too far off track. So if you want to pop questions in, that's cool. So one of the greatest things that sucks up our time as household managers, people running homes, and also as business owners, is this inability sometimes to decide what to do next. So we look at everything on our plate and we're not quite sure which action to take. So we know we need to take action, we know we need to get stuff done, but unless we've planned well, then we can fall into decision fatigue, we can fall into not quite knowing what it is that we need to do right now in this moment. So for example, just as this morning, so I showed up early for this call, and when I realized that I had 20 minutes, I'm like, well, what am I going to do with that? And so it's 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was quite happy just to sit and drink tea and not actually do anything in this time because I'll be productive later in the day. But that question comes up, what am I going to do right now? What do I have to do next? What am I going to do first? Just going to look in this chat box. Oh, that's so beautiful, Miss B. I love that. And absolutely, I'll share details of how we can connect and those contact details. I'd love to know, is this resonating on some level? Would you agree that one of the greatest things that consumes our time is making decisions? So the antidote, of course, to this is to have a plan. And there are 4 kinds of plans in my world. There are many, many, many kinds of plans, but there's 4 major categories that we need to think through. One of the things that if you hang around me for any length of time, you will realize is that I am a lover of acronyms. So my one-on-one clients will say to me when I'm teaching something, there's no acronym, this must be something new. So once I've been studying something, once I've immersed in something, acronyms just appear to me and I pull together structures and processes. And so plans, like everything else in my world of importance to me, is an acronym. And you can see it there on the screen. So the 4 kinds of plans are projects, lifestyle choices, activities that need to be scheduled, and notes that need to be managed. And there's a bunch of things in there. So projects could be, so for example, putting together this presentation, there was a project of creating the slides. That was a project. It was something I needed to do, and there were tasks associated with that. I needed to put together the content. I needed to make sure it stayed within the guidelines. I needed to make sure it was going to be valuable. I needed to make it pretty, because that's just the kind of thing that I do. I bring things to life with pictures. So that was the projects. In terms of lifestyle choices for putting together a presentation, in the beginning, when I was first starting to speak, part of that lifestyle choice would have been to have practiced every day and to have reviewed the content. I've now been delivering this content so long that that's not as necessary for me. I don't need to practice because I literally can deliver this in my sleep. I knew even if I woke up tired for this, I could just show up and speak on planning, on organizing, and on the tech that supports us to save the time. None of that's outside of my regular scope of conversation these days. But in terms of the lifestyle choices that I did maintain, so when I got up this morning, and I say got up this morning, I got up at midnight, I went through my usual day-to-day household activities to set myself up for success. So I had a shower, I washed my hair, I cleaned the bathroom, I potted in the kitchen, I watched a movie with my daughter who was still up because we're in school holidays here right now. So those lifestyle activities are the things that we do within our life that are often done on repeat. When we look at household management, there are a bunch of things that we have as lifestyle choices, things like doing the dishes, washing clothes, dusting, cleaning up. They're all lifestyle choices. They're things that need to happen but don't need to necessarily happen at a specific time. They're things that we just do on repeat. In terms of health, it could be things like going for a daily walk or meditation. Let me know in the comments if that's not making sense or you've got any questions about what fits in these categories. Activities are anything that we schedule. So, for example, if I look at this presentation, the project was putting together the slides, the lifestyle choices was making sure that I knew my content, I practiced, and all of that kind of stuff. And then the activity is actually showing up with you beautiful, wonderful people and having the conversation. So that's something that is contained within a specific timetable. It goes into a calendar and it is scheduled, whereas in our projects we have tasks, and while sometimes people will treat them like activities, they're not necessarily activities. We don't need to show up at a specific time. And then our notes, they range widely, but it could be things like, so even putting together the slides, there were notes that I had to put together the content. And if I wasn't as practiced in presenting this, then I could have notes for the presentation. And then there's notes from emails. Is that a question coming through? Or someone else just popped off mute? It might just be someone that's hopped off mute. So I'll just keep going unless there's any questions. If there's any questions, so feel free to dive in. I know I speak really fast. I know this content really well, and I often forget to slow it down for those that don't know it well. So were there any questions?
Well, none for now.
Not for now. It's all making sense so far. Beautiful. So when we think about, so this has got the overview, which I've just done. Beautiful. Thanks, Esther. So projects include tasks and overviews. Lifestyle choices include habits and trackers. Activities include appointments at deadlines, and then notes includes information and resources. And as I'm sure you can imagine, there are different apps and different technologies for those different kinds of planning. So for our activities, our appointments and deadlines, the best app, and it's any calendar, will work with that. For lifestyle and the habits and trackers, there's a wide range of apps, the same for projects and notes. So one of the things is recognizing that we all have our own planner preferences, and we all have the best way that we work. So some of my clients they have an activity scheduler planner preference, and I have a quiz that we can do to navigate what the planner preference is. So if someone has an activity preference, then we take what they're doing. So we're all maintaining all 4 of these, and we place tasks into their calendar because the calendar is the best choice for them. For someone that's more project management focused, then we will set up the tasks and overviews in something like Asana or Trello, and their activities generally need to have reminders. So popping it in a calendar will work, but they have to have an alarm attached to it because they think differently and they operate differently. Those who prefer habits and trackers, again, operate differently. So it's knowing our personal preferences to be able to make the decision, which is why I couldn't just write out a list of these are the top 3 apps to use. I have put together some for the overall generalization, but when it comes down to the specifics, the best technology to help us save time is the one that we will use. So too often we get consumed by trying to find the perfect app or trying to follow somebody else's choice of app that has a different personal preference to us. So whatever it is that we're choosing, we need to make sure it aligns with our personal preferences and is something that we will use. There is no point, and I will confess that I am one of the worst for this. I see a new app because I love apps. I love new technology. I particularly love planning and productivity apps and planning and productivity systems and planning and productivity models. And I'm so driven, and I will get sidetracked and distracted by the next shiny thing, and I'll download it and I might use it for a week or 2 and then it fades away. So knowing my own personal preferences, now I can, and I'll admit that I'm not very good at still doing this. I will download new shiny things, mostly so I can keep on top of what's out there and make recommendations to other people on what's going to best serve them depending on their preferences. But I know that I'm downloading it to look at and to play with as opposed to adding it into my schedule. So the best technology is going to be the one that you will use. So years ago, I was tossing up between Asana and Trello. And if anyone doesn't know what they are, they're a project management tool that helps you take projects and break them into tasks, and you can set up reminders and you can share with other people. They're a wonderful tool if you're a project manager, which is one of my top preferences. And so I was testing between Asana and Trello, and it literally just came down to my personal preference. So the features were pretty much the same, the benefits, the way they operated. The major distinctions was the viewing, and I think Trello's actually upgraded now and has the viewing. So going back about 4 or 5 years that I was looking at them, my preference to be able to see the tasks I've got laid out on a calendar. So I have a little bit of activity scheduler in me as well. And so I wanted to be able to see my tasks on the calendar. That was what drew me to. So it came down to a choice between the calendar view and the ability in Trello to add pretty backgrounds. And it was a toss-up because I do like my stuff to be pretty and beautiful, and I'm definitely quite visually minded. Just show you guys my daily frog task list. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's quite beautiful as well as functional. It's got the chore chart down the bottom that we don't particularly utilize, but that's one of my reminder checklists. So I do like them to be pretty, but the functionality of being able to see the calendar one out. that came down to me knowing my personal preferences and knowing which one I would use more readily. So if I'd chosen Trello, while it would have looked beautiful, it wouldn't have been the best technology to help me save time or stay on track or bring focus, because I wouldn't have used it because it wasn't aligned with my personal preferences. I'll just pause and check in if there's any questions at this point. Otherwise, we'll continue with what I recommend as some great overall apps. So just either give me a thumbs up or a yes, I'm good in the chat box, or let me know if there's any questions coming up. Just give you guys a moment. Sometimes the typing, I'm just going to have a sip of tea. Sounds like everyone's good. Beautiful. So my favorite all-encompassing apps, and by that I mean that these are useful for you irrespective of your planner preference. These are going to have within them what you need. So the first one is really one of the most basic apps is the alarms on our phone. So utilizing for consistent activities, setting ourselves up with alarms on our phone. And so this can be used for regular activities, it can be used for lifestyle choices, or it can be used for a project that you need to, sorry, I just got distracted by the comments. That's cool. So the phone alarms can be utilized for all of them. So any tasks that you need to do, any projects that you're working on, you can set an alarm to sit down and do tasks from that project. So phone alarms is my first and foremost, and I highly recommend, irrespective of your planner preference, that's the first thing that you start utilizing for yourself. The next one that I recommend or utilize for myself is Google Suite. And in that there is, again, opportunities. So you can use the Google Sheets for project planning. You can use Google Docs for note taking. You can use Google Calendar as the calendar. And so again, everything, you can use Google Sheets for lifestyle choices and tracking if you choose. So again, everything is kind of covered in that. The Elyssi app has a wide range of choices in it, and again covers all 4 of the planner styles, and HubSpot for small business owners that need to keep track of client data. So Google Suite and Elyssi app. Google Suite you can definitely adapt to business. Elyssi app is really more personal and a single person. That's such a shame, Shedette, but I guess you can't hear me say that. I trust Augusta will take care of that in the comments. So the Elyssi app again the Elyssi app is more for personal organization, whereas HubSpot is more for business organization. I trust that distinction makes sense. I'm just going to cough and have a sip of my water. Where's my mute button gone? My apologies. So yeah, so these are the all-encompassing apps. One of the things that I have on my task list this week is to put together a handout going into the apps for the different planner styles, and I will upload that into my Facebook group. I'll just put the link for that in the chat box. So if anyone wants to join the Facebook group where we talk about productivity, we talk about my daily frog method. As Augusta said, I do have my own method, and it's so the daily frog method. I do have the planner quiz as well. So the planning and planning with grace. I have many acronyms that help people to stay focused and productive and know really what they're aiming for, that are open to allowing fulfillment and really tapping into what it is that they're looking for in life so that they can create that life they love with their business supporting them. So like I said earlier, the best technology to help you save time is the one that you will use. My name is Amy Taylor, and my website is wistariaenterprises.com.au, and I will just pop my email in the chat box as well. One of my other favorite apps, and it didn't really fit into the planning styles, is an app called Text Expander, which is why I'm so easily able to put those links in, and you just type the little snippet bit. So if you frequently are typing things or sharing links, I highly recommend you check out Text Expander just as a little piece of bonus content, and an app that is truly a phenomenal time saver, because you just need to have, and I can do whole paragraphs with that when I utilize it well. So that's all I've got in terms of the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys would like to ask about this. So about the planning styles, about the apps that I recommended, however I can serve.
Ladies, you have any questions for Amy?
Yes, we have, but we are just trying to write it.
Feel free to come off.
Okay, maybe we can just ask directly like this, if that's okay.
Yeah,
absolutely, sure. By all means.
Okay, so Amy, thank you so much for the presentation. Beautiful. You got us thinking, but I guess applying it is another one. I think from my own end, when I think about planning, is, you know, sometimes you see people that we all have the same 24 hours and are achieving lots. They are organized, they seem to know, and perhaps in the country where I'm speaking from, Nigeria, there tends to be, I don't know how to put it, you have so many things that you say you have to juggle sometimes that you almost feel, I don't have time for everything. And there are so many things you want to do. For me, more so as a kind of like a socialpreneur I'm trying to be, I have so many ideas and interests and things I want to do for people and for myself. How do you make use of technology that, one, data is not even cheap here. I have a phone I'm using and I even feel it's loaded with so much stuff that I haven't had time to chalk out. And there's so many things I'm, you know, getting from your presentation. I feel, oh, I want to screenshot to remember and read. And then sometimes I might just end up having some of it stored in my laptop. And I'm like, what the hell is all, where do I begin from? So that now I'm beginning to feel, look, I just have to throw out stuff, and whatever I need is online, or I don't know what. What would you say as a professional planning strategy? How do we navigate around all those things? Because this is just a little summary I have given, because I don't know where to start with my own disorder personally. That's what I will say, because I want to do many things of interest, and I know that there are tools and things. I joined Future Female because of some of the things the founder had talked about, but I realized that I couldn't cope up with all the beautiful things that, you know, they were teaching in the manual. I just had to sort of like pull out and say, look, let me hold on this for a while until I get myself organized. Because there's so many things I want to do. I'm trying to start the mentorship thing for young people. I'm just, you know, I'm trying to work also 9 to 5 because I had to put food on the table. I wasn't getting my social employment. So I want you to help us to see, how do you navigate and be more organized within this? Because you have so many commitments and responsibilities, and you don't want to leave anyone out.
I totally get it. This is such a great question. I'm sure there are others that will definitely resonate with there's so much to choose from, and there's so many options available to us. So just listening to you, Ms. B, it sounds like you potentially have a note taker planning preference, which means that you're gathering lots of information, and
I can't tell you how many notebooks.
That was an accurate mind.
You're absolutely right. I'm full of notebooks.
So one of the obstacles that the note taker creates for themselves is the they need to learn to leverage one of the other 3 planner styles as a companion. So either the project management, the activity scheduler, or the lifestyle choices, to actually get stuff happening and get stuff done. So picking the secondary, and based on what you're saying, I couldn't quite hear what that would be for you. So that would be one of the first things that I'd recommend, is working out what your secondary planner style is so that you can leverage it. And then the other piece that really comes back to our criteria for making decisions. So knowing what to do next requires us to make a choice. Knowing what action to do first requires us to make a choice. So understanding and knowing it's tough, because you need to put food on the table. You need to look after your family. You need to clean the house. You want to create this business. There's all of these things pulling. When we've got clear on our priorities, and instead of having everything sit side by side, we start to stack them. So the first thing, and this is where my Daily Frog method comes in, I highly encourage you to drop into the Daily Frog group and learn about the Daily Frog, and really start to understand the taking care of today. It's not a technical application, it's a mindset piece. And when you start utilizing how to think, the apps that you need will start to come through more clearly. Does that help at all, Miss B? Does that come close to answering your question? I acknowledge that I can't answer it thoroughly in this time.
Yeah, I think to an extent that does. I will definitely have to have further opportunity to discuss, and then I look forward to the group you had mentioned.
Yeah, so feel free to join the Daily Frog group, and there's a free 5-day challenge in there on how to take care of today. So that's, and all of that is writing lists, and I think it'll really suit it's definitely written for note takers, and I think that'll suit your style really well. So just noticed Esther's question in the forgetting to put the appointments on our calendar and then missing them, how to manage this. So the first thing that I would recommend is going back to that very first app that I recommended of the clock, and setting yourself an alarm once a week or once a day. Generally once a week is enough once you get in. Once a week, sit down and go back over and make sure you've got all of the activities that you've got in your calendar. So you want to build the habit. So my guess, Esther, is that activity scheduler is not your primary planning style, and that you're either a project manager or lifestyle choices or a note taker. And so you want to leverage your primary style to have you leveraging and using the calendar. And so if it's lifestyle choices that's your preference, you just want to set up a routine that once every week you sit down and you make sure all of the appointments get into the calendar. If you're a project planner, you just want to set that as a task on your task lists. Add appointments to calendar. If you're a note taker, then I'm going to, again, encourage you to leverage one of the other styles to help with that. So let me know, Esther, if that helps. But it's really about making the time and setting a reminder. So one of the biggest myths that we have is that we will remember. I think it's David Allen says it in Getting Things Done. The greatest deception that we have for ourselves is that we think we will remember. We need to write them down, and we need to make sure we give ourselves that opportunity. So how are we going for time, Augusta? Do you want me to take one more question, or are we feeling?
Yes, please. Miss B talked about the other planner you use, or you talked about besides Trello. So yeah, she wants you to mention it.
Yeah, so I think the one I mentioned today was Asana. There's actually quite a few that I utilize. Again, I'm going to put that handout up in the Daily Frog group. So I'd encourage you, because there's so many different options. And again, knowing your planner style is really kind of key. For you, Miss B, the Elyssi app may be a really good match for your note taker style, which leverages the other styles in it. So depending on your preferences, I'm cautious of recommending, like I know I've spoken about a couple, but without knowing people's personal preferences, we come back to what's the one that you'll use. And there's a lot of time and effort goes into navigating. So highly encourage knowing the planner preferences will be the pathway to really kind of help you make those choices efficiently.
Ami, sorry, please, can I just quickly ask you, because the note-taking one you said, I don't know if it's the same one like the note-taking ones we have in our phones, because I've seen that if it's that similar one, I have so many notes I take there as well that even I almost like only I'm trying, maybe when you do set, you might find what you have put there, or it might be that it's even lost in the trail. So what do you do with that?
Yeah, so then I can't remember if, and I don't think it does. So with note taking, what you want to make sure is that it's searchable, so that so something like Google Docs, you can search and it will search the name of the document and it will search the content of the document. The same for Microsoft Word. You can search and it will actually search within the documents. So my encouragement to you would be to find an app that you can take notes in that will let you search those notes. Okay. Ideally, we organize them, but the reality is that we generally, if we're pushed for time and we're struggling to make decisions, working out how to organize them and sort them is beyond the initial capabilities. I will confess quite happily that my notes are an abysmal mess, except that they're in a system that I can search. So I can type a keyword into Google Docs and it will find all of the documents that has got that keyword in it for me. And so something that you can search is probably your best bet. And I don't think the phone app allows for that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Beautiful. So yeah, so anyone that wants to learn more about what I do and how I operate and get access to the Taking Care of Today challenge and also access to the handout on the technologies based on planner style that I'm going to put together this week, feel free to just join the Daily Frog group. I'd be delighted to have you in there.
Yay! Thank you so much, Ami. My biggest takeaway from what you shared with us is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how pretty the app looks, you know, what matters is that it gets the work done. What matters is the functionality of the app. You know, yeah. as we use an app, initially we might be drawn to all the lovely colors, all the fancy things, the bells and the whistles, you know, but at the end of the day, after looking at them and being fascinated by them, if you don't get to use them, it's useless to you. So what works is what you can use at the end of the day. It's what you can use. No matter how lovely it is, no matter how fancy it looks, if you don't use it, it's useless to you. You know, I used to also, you know, get so fascinated by Trello whenever I look at it. I'm like, wow, nice colors and all of that, you know, but I don't really use it as much. I end up using things like Asana. I end up using Monday. I even end up using Notion because of how versatile it is. So really, I agree with you that yes, it's not about the bells and the whistles and the tassels and everything that's there. You know, it boils down to what can you use, what is functional to you, what is useful to you, what will impact your productivity positively at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd add what shapes that is our personal preferences. So what we use will be shaped by our personal preferences, but that's absolutely it. It's finding what we will use. The best app, I mean, it's the same as a gym membership. If we don't go to the gym and use the gym membership is useless. So we need to be choosing apps that we will use. That's how we save time, and that's how we become more productive, is through using the tools that we've got at our fingertips.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much.